Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of both wonder and dread? Imagine what it would be like if one of those distant, twinkling lights suddenly decided to pay us a visit. For most of human history, that wasn't just a thought experiment. It was a terrifying, world-altering reality. Tonight, we journey back in time, to a night when the sky itself seemed to fall. This is the story of the Asteroid Night, a cataclysm no one could explain, seen through the eyes of those who survived it. Imagine a small, isolated valley, thousands of years ago. Let's call the people who lived there the Skywatchers. Their lives were governed by the rhythm of the sun and the moon. They knew the stars like the back of their hands. The constellations were their calendar, their storybook, and their gods. The sky was constant, predictable, a source of comfort. But on one particular evening, that comfort was shattered. It began subtly. A new star, brighter than any other, appeared in the twilight sky. At first, it was a curiosity. Elders pointed, children whispered. Was it a good omen? A message from the ancestors? No one knew, but a strange unease began to settle over the valley. As the hours passed, the new star didn't follow the familiar arc of its celestial brethren. Each grill larger brighter, and it seemed to be getting closer. The unease turned to fear. The familiar sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of leaves fell silent. All eyes were fixed on the approaching light. It was no longer a star. It was a bowl of fire, trailing a tail of smoke and sparks that stretched across half the sky. It blazed with colors they had never seen before: fire-sword oranges, electric blues, and venomous greens. A low, guttural hum began to vibrate through the ground, a sound that felt ancient and wrong. Panic erupted. People scrambled for the safety of their huts, pulling their loved ones close. The shaman began a frantic chant, a desperate plea to the spirits of the sky to turn back this celestial intruder. But the object didn't listen. It was now a second sun, casting, dancing, terrifying shadows across the valley. The air grew hot, thick with the smell of ozone and burning stone. The world was bathed in an apocalyptic light. Then, with a sound that defied description, a sound that was part roar, part thunder, part the world tearing itself apart, it struck. The impact happened miles away, on the other side of the ridge that framed their valley. The ground heaved as if a giant had punched it from below. Trees whipped back and forth like blades of grass in a storm. A wave of superheated air, a blast of pure force, slammed into the valley, flattening huts and sending people tumbling. The sky, which moments before had been unnaturally bright, was now plunged into absolute darkness as a colossal cloud of dust and debris blotted out the stars. For those who survived the initial blast, the world was no longer recognizable. The familiar ridge was gone, replaced by a smoldering, glowing crater that pulsed with an infernal light. The air was thick with choking dust, making every breath a painful struggle. The sky rained down not water, but hot ash and small, sharp stones. The Skywatchers huddled together in the darkness, their world reduced to chaos and terror. The sky, their constant, guiding friend, had betrayed them. Fallen. The days that followed were a living nightmare. A strange, perpetual twilight shrouded the land. The sun was a pale, weak disk behind a veil of dust. The air remained acrid, and a fine layer of gray powder covered everything. The animals that hadn't been killed in the blast had fled. The river, their source of life, was choked with mud and debris. The plants they relied on for food and medicine were either burned or buried. They were survivors in a dead world. This single event completely rewrote their culture. The old gods of the sky were abandoned. How could they worship something that had tried to destroy them? New myths were born, whispered around meager fires in the suffocating gloom. Stories of a sky monster, a celestial demon that had been cast out of the heavens and had torn a wound in the earth. The crater became a taboo place, a cursed ground where the monster slept, a place to be feared and avoided for all generations to come. The tribe's entire way of life had to change. They could no longer rely on the sun and stars for guidance. They became masters of the earth, learning to read the subtle signs of the ground, to find water where none seemed to exist, to identify the few hardy plants that survived in the ash. They became more resilient, more resourceful, but also more fearful. Their art changed, too. Gone were the beautiful sun symbols and celestial patterns. In their place were jagged lines, depictions of fire falling from the sky, and fearful figures looking upwards in terror. The asteroid night was seared into their collective memory, passed down not as history, but as a sacred warning. Now, let's step back from our story and look at the real science. This fictional account is based on very real events. We have evidence of impacts like this all over the world. The Tunguska event in 1908 flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of Siberian forest. The Chicxulub impactor, 66 million years ago, led to the extinction of the dinosaurs, and countless smaller impacts have left their mark on our planet and, undoubtedly, on the cultures of our ancestors. Imagine being an early human and witnessing such an event. You have no concept of asteroids, of orbital mechanics, or of astrophysics. All you know is that the sky, the most powerful and predictable thing in your existence, has just unleashed unimaginable destruction. It's no wonder that so many ancient cultures have myths about cosmic battles, angry sky gods, or worlds being destroyed and reborn by fire from the heavens. These weren't just stories. They were attempts to process and explain a trauma on a planetary scale. Archaeologists and anthropologists sometimes find what they call impact layers in the geological Recorthine strata of Earth, rich in iridium and shocked quartz, the telltale signs of an asteroid strike. And sometimes, just above these layers, they see a dramatic shift in the artifacts. Pottery styles change. Settlement patterns are disrupted. Religious symbols are altered. It's tantalizing evidence that these cosmic events didn't just change the landscape. They changed the course of human history. They forced migration, destroyed civilizations, and gave birth to new religions and new ways of seeing the world. The story of the Sunwatchers is a reminder that we live on a rock, flying through a cosmic shooting gallery. But it's also a story of incredible human resilience. Faced with a world turned upside down, our ancestors didn't just give up. They adapted. They innovated. They created new stories to make sense of the senseless. They endured. The scars on the earth became scars on their culture, and from those scars, new life and new understanding eventually grew. Today, we have telescopes and satellites watching the skies, tracking near-Earth objects. We have the science to understand what these celestial visitors are. We are no longer the frightened sun watchers, cowering in the darkness. But we should never forget the profound, terrifying mystery that the night sky held for our ancestors. It shaped who they were, and in doing so, it shaped who we are today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries of our past. Let me know in the comments what other ancient mysteries you'd like to see us cover. Until next time, keep looking up.